Hopefully. I don't know. Oh, there it goes. All right, we are live on the YouTube.
On the YouTube.
On the YouTube.
Wow.
Yeah. Still gonna wait a few minutes before we get the devotion started here. Miss Brittany's making banana bread. So, yeah. All right. Checking real quick on a couple things. Don't get that song stuck in my head. Yeah, I do. But we're live, by the way.
It's okay.
Okay. All right. All right. Yeah.
They can hear me.
Sometimes it's better to be seen and not heard.
It's alright, I got sour cream.
Yeah. The whole lactose intolerant thing would get me. All right. Yeah. We're going to get started here in just a few minutes, everybody, with our first devotion. I'm just looking at one quick thing. Hope y'all are doing well.
I'll show you people in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Cool. It's kind of like Facebook Live, except it's YouTube.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Just a couple more minutes here, and we will be ready to rock and roll. All right. Probably going to get feedback. All right. All right. So let's go ahead and dive into our devotion for tonight, which wanted to start doing this on a daily thing. And we probably won't always do it live, but since this was a little bit later in the day, obviously it's 8 o'clock or close to 8 o'clock. We wanted to go ahead and do a devotion for you guys. And that way we keep bringing you more content and hoping that you will stay fresh with your relationship with God while we walk through these next several weeks, as we cannot necessarily meet together, but definitely excited for the daily devotionals and things like that. And like I said, we'll be uploading a lot more content and things of that nature. Not necessarily always live, but 6:07 tomorrow we'll be live here at this same place. So that being said, I want to give you just a brief moment for what I believe is necessary. And I want to talk about our dependency on God. And I was reading a couple of different books, and I'll be sure to reference those books later. But I was reading a couple of different books, and I think one of the biggest things that we struggle with is our pride, especially when it comes to being maybe front and center in our job or at school or whatever the case may be. That we like the spotlight. We like to be in control. We like to have some sense of this is the way my life is going, and so I make the rules. Where when you start reading through the gospel, you begin to see that God expects us to be completely dependent upon him. And that being said, I want to start in Genesis, and then we're going to look at 1 Corinthians, and then we're going to look at not Second Kings, but 1 Kings chapter 2, and go from there. So first thing, and I just want to look at the first 4 words in Genesis 1:1. And if you have your Bible, go ahead and flip there, even though I'm not really going to give you time to do that. But Genesis 1:1 says, "In the beginning, God." If you really begin to think about that and our relationship, is that in the beginning of everything, our relationship, our salvation, everything of that nature begins with God. God is front and center. He gets, quote unquote, the spotlight. We don't. We need to realize day in and day out how just dependent we are on him. And one of the books I was reading talked about perhaps we're not hopeless enough to realize our dependence on God. I think about how often we try to still and it's going to sound weird, but we try to steal God's glory, even though you can't do that. But we try to put ourselves front and center, and we try to make it about us, and realize that in the beginning, God, everything's about God, everything's about Jesus, everything is about who He is and what He's done. And so we need to remember that we are to be dependent on Him. Now, I do want to flip over to 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 31. It's funny, in my outline I was just looking at to make sure I say what I want to say, what I believe I need to say. I wrote 1 Corinthians 10:35, and if in your Bible, there is no 1 Corinthians 10:35, but in 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 31, so whether you eat or drink or whatever you do all to the glory of God. Give no offense to Jews or to Greeks or to the church of God, just as I try to please everyone in everything I do, not seeking my own advantage, but that of many, that they may be saved. And basically just what Paul is saying here is, do everything you do should be for the glory of God. It's all because of God. We are able to do what we can do. We're able to live the life that He has called us to live because of God. So everything you do, and as students, whether that's your schoolwork or your when you go back to your extracurricular activities, whenever that is, everything you do should be for the glory of God, not for ourselves. And the last thing I want to give for this time of devotion, because like I said, this is devotion, it's not a full-blown service or Bible study, but hopefully you'll be encouraged to go and read all these scriptures a little more before the ones that I quoted, and see what's going on before, during, and after. But I want to go to 1 Kings, which is I'm actually reading through 1 Kings and 2 Kings right now for just personal growth. And I came across this, and if you know 1 Kings, you know that David is about to die. So, fun stuff. Starts with death. And then he's given instruction to Solomon, of course, his other son, whose name I cannot pronounce. I'm not even going to try right now. Tried to steal the throne, doesn't work out. And so David is talking to Solomon here, and he says in verse 2, I am about to go the way of all the earth, meaning I'm going to die. Be strong and show yourself a man, and keep the charge of the Lord your God, walking in His ways and keeping His statutes, His commandments, His rules, and His testimonies, as it is written in the law of Moses, that you may prosper in all that you do and wherever you turn, that the Lord may establish His word that He spoke concerning me, saying, if your sons pay close attention to their way, to walk before me in faithfulness with all their heart and with all their soul, you shall not lack a man on the throne of Israel. So basically, not to really get super exegetical right here, because again, this is a devotion. What we can read there and see is that in order, maybe the better terminology would be to show ourselves a worker approved. We need to keep the statutes. We need to keep we basically need to do what God says to do, and don't do what God says don't do. And this is not in legalistic terms, but this is, if you truly say you have a relationship with Jesus, if you truly say that you love Jesus and you want more of Jesus, if that's what you're saying, then you need to at least act like it. I even don't really like that term, like act like it, because anyone can put on a show, but you need to maybe live like it. You need to live like you love Jesus. You need to your words, your thoughts, your actions, everything about who you are. It needs to be a direct reflection of who God is and what He's done in your life. So that being said, we're going to wrap up this time of devotion, and look forward to 6:07 tomorrow night, which we will be live here on YouTube, and it will start at 6:07. So God bless. Praying for you all. Have a great night.